Boom! Alright guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. So today we're talking about my training goals, my little bit of my training history, how my training had to change over time, what I'm currently doing a little bit, and yeah, just the general goals that I'm working on in the gym. It's gonna be a little bit of a longer, loose form kind of video. I'm going to not worry too much about making everything perfect and how my thoughts are coming across in front of the camera. I made a deal with a buddy. I have a buddy who's helping me. Yeah, see, this is what I'm talking about. Here we go. Fuck! All right. Get it together, Frank. So I made a deal with a buddy of mine. He's trying to help me to keep me accountable to actually make and upload these videos. And we made a deal that I'll just try to put out one shitty video every, whatever the time frame will be. I'll probably starting out with aiming for about once a month. And hopefully over time, as I get more efficient with the process, I'll be able to increase it to maybe every other week, maybe even every single week. That would be great. But yeah, just to put out a shitty video, not worry too much about the quality, because otherwise I'm just gonna stress myself the fuck out about everything being 100% perfect, and it's never gonna be as good as I want it to be anyway. So yeah, one shitty video every once in a while. Let's go. So bear with me through all my ahs and ums and talking breaks where I just stare blankly into nothing while I am trying to get my brain to produce the thoughts that I want to produce and subsequently spit them out in a sort of comprehensible manner. Yeah, let's do this. So today, talking about my training goals. First off, a little bit of training history. I've always really been super excited about training for strength. There's just something about throwing around big heavy loads that just really gets me going, if you know what I mean. And yeah, after a few years of grinding, day in, day out, busting my ass in the gym, I'm very, very happy to announce that at this point I've managed to hit some pretty bottom of the barrel lifts if you're going by internet standards. But that I'm still really happy with nonetheless. I'm proud of them, even though, you know, there might not be what some 16-year-olds on SARMs are lifting on TikTok. I'm still happy with my achievements. So I'll go a little bit into that. I'll try to pull some videos up on the screen right now. My most recent PRs that I've been able to hit were 105 kilo for 8 bench press, which I've then turned into 120 kilograms for a double, for a little dub that you're seeing over here, hopefully, probably. Pretty happy with that. Ultimate goal on the bench press is, well, for now, I think a good goal would be to, first of all, get back to this these strength numbers, because I've been detrained a little bit, and I'll get into that later, how that came to be exactly. But first order of priority, get my strength back to where it was. That would be pretty sweet. And then from there, just take it from there. I think like a 3-plate bench press would of course be super sweet. And I think with some, you know, successful concurrent training blocks, it wouldn't be too far away to get there. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. Now, moving on, I hit this 200 kilo for 5 block pull that I was also quite stoked about. Managed to hit a 200 kilo for 2 deadlifts, not quite off of the floor, but we're just gonna pretend that a little mat wasn't there, and we'll take it as well. What else? Oh yeah, hit a 175 kilogram squat. I was very stoked about that. Here you can see it. If all's going well. And after loading up 175 and smoking it, I was like, you know, screw it, let's fucking throw on 4 plates, 180 kilograms, roughly 400 pounds, and let's just see what happens. So as you can see, walking it out here the wrong way around, because that's just fucking how I roll. I like just squatting, like facing into the gym. And I got a lot of hate about this on Instagram. Like, I had a video that blew up and there were so many people in the comments super upset about how I was walking out. And there's just nothing you can do about it. I'm gonna keep doing it. I'm just a freaking maverick, you know? So anyways, 180 kilograms, here we go. Depth check, looking good. Now, a little bit of a struggle on the way up, I would say. It was a tough one. I nearly died that day. I saw my life pass in front of my eyes a little bit, but we made it, and here we are to tell the tale. And yeah, so those are some of my most recent achievements. Oh yeah, pull-ups maybe would be nice to get into as well. Hit 20 kilograms for 8. Was pretty stoked about that. And oh yeah, another squat that was pretty happy with was 140 for 11 reps. And very, very happy with the form over there. Just, you know, solid controlled reps, solid depth on each rep. And yeah, quite pleased with this one. So after all this training, particularly the squats and a little bit of the deadlifts, the block pulls as well, it's been putting a lot of strain on my lower back. And particularly my hip flexor got really, really aggravated. And it just over time started being less and less happy. And I started protesting a little bit, started nagging a little bit. And this little bit of nagging turned into some pretty debilitating back pain. It actually for a while caused me to wake up every single day with severe pain. Just, it felt like my entire left side from top to bottom was just glued together, like, yeah, like a big, one massive painful knot that was radiating out everywhere. And I was waking up like this every single day for months in a row. I had tried a bunch of prehab exercises. Nothing was really working. And I got super fed up with it. And at some point I really thought, well, this is just my life right now. I'm just gonna be waking up in pain for the rest of my my future. Very depressing. I in the end did manage to deal with it. Thank God. Like now I'm feeling 100% better. Well, 99% better. Every once in a while I still feel a little bit of tightness and tension. But it's like 99% reduced, and most days I'm completely pain-free and able to do everything I want without issues. So very happy about that. And some of the things I did, to go, maybe I won't go in full detail in this video, but a few things that I had to do were just taking out some of the lifts that were aggravating it. So for a while I took out anything out of my program that I thought could potentially be a negative influence. So that meant no more barbell squats, no more deadlifts, no more Romanian deadlifts or block pulls, any type of like actually loaded lifts. I even took out powerlifting style bench presses because the arching was putting a lot of strain in my lower back. I took out weighted pull-ups for a while because the weight was hanging off of my hips and that was causing irritation. By the way, for those of you who don't know, the hip flexor, it attaches from the front of the hip to the back, to the first couple vertebrae. So that is when it gets chronically tightened or inflamed or whatever the case may be, that is how it can cause back pain. And that was certainly the case for me. So that combined with a few other adjustments that I had to make to my life, that really cleared up the back pain quite quickly. So I was really happy in the end that that I found those solutions. And that meant, though, that I had to find some good replacements for these exercises. Now, at the same time, I had been consuming a lot of YouTube, as I always do, and particularly I was really getting into the content of a few channels like Natural Hypertrophy, Geoffrey Verdi Schofield, quite a tongue twister, that name, Basement Bodybuilding, Bald Omni-Man, maybe a few others. And they all got me extremely hyped up about pure hypertrophy training, rather than the sort of mix of strength and hypertrophy that I was doing before that, which got me pretty decent results up to that point. But yeah, I got just super hyped up to just give pure hypertrophy training a shot, because a lot of the things, the concepts that they were talking about, how it differs from training for strength, really made sense to me. And once I started applying them to my own training, I did really notice also a massive difference in the hypertrophy specific results that I got. So I took this injury as a sort of starting point. I was like, well, I have to take out these movements anyway. These are the movements that I really cared about improving the numbers for. And it's just a perfect opportunity to give this more pure hypertrophy training a shot. And yeah, that's what I've been doing, and I've been really enjoying it. It's a very slow process building muscle, but yeah, it's also, in a way, it's more laid back than strength training.
Sweden! Come on, just touch it now! Squeeze it! Yeah!
Almost meditative in a sort of weird way.
Blow it in now! Squeeze it back!
And yeah, it's been great. Now let me catch my, let me look at my notes for a second, because I'm kind of starting to lose my train of thought here. Yeah, so where I left off, if you've been training as long as I have, then at some point it becomes quite difficult to combine training for strength and training for size in a very effective way. You can do it, but your results in both are just not going to be as good as they were if you specialize in one of them. That is just because there are fundamental differences between training for strength and training for size that I'll get into in a future video that make it hard to effectively combine them. At the same time, at least. It's smarter to take periods of your training where you're hyper-focusing on one thing, and then periods of your training where you're hyper-focusing on the other thing. Now, ultimately, I would like to get as strong as I could possibly get. This is a very exciting idea to me, to see how far I can push my, the limits that that this body has. But at the moment, I got just really excited about giving training for pure hypertrophy a try. And if I want to really maximize how much muscle I can put on, then it makes a lot of sense to bias my training towards that. Now, as an added bonus, training for size does ultimately increase your strength ceiling. So, because ultimately I want to get as strong as I can possibly get, it makes a lot of sense to also try to get as big as I can possibly get, at least in terms of contractile tissues. I also care about relative strength. I could just get super fat and have a bunch of muscle, and it will be great for my squat and my bench press, etc. But any terms of relative strength where your body weight matters, like pull-ups, dips, etc., they kind of go out the window if you do that. So yeah, long story short, I want to put on as much muscle as possible, just for the sake of itself, because getting jacked is super fun. But also to eventually be able to come back to strength training and having built a broader base with more muscle on my frame in total, having the potential to have more strength in the long run. Now, all of that said, what have I been changing in my training? So I already talked about the lifts that I had to take out because of my lower back issue. I replaced them basically with very similar movements, but just with maybe slightly lower fatigue costs, movements that are taking a little bit shorter to warm up for, and movements that are just very stable, that are very easy to take close to failure, very easy to grind out, or maybe certain movements that just put more emphasis on a certain area of the muscle, or more rather, I should say, that put more tension in a certain area of the lift. Particularly, I've been biasing a lot of the lifts toward putting a lot of tension in the bottom position. Because a lot of research has come out, you know, training at long muscle lengths, yada yada, great for hypertrophy. It's not just training at long muscle lengths though, that's important. It's important that the muscle experiences a lot of tension at these longer muscle lengths. It also doesn't mean that shortened movements are completely useless, or movements rather that put more tension in the mid-range or the shorter position of the resistance curve. But I've been trying to bias a little bit of my training, like more than 50% of the movements that I do, or at least 50%, to have them be movements that put a ton of tension in the bottom position. Now, some of those movements, for example, you can think about hack squats for the legs, glute ham raises for my hamstrings, also big bonus. They put very little pressure on my lower back, and they've been great for my hip flexor. I took out arch bench presses for a while, replaced them with flat barbell bench presses, or bro bench as I like to call them, where you just try to lay as flat as possible on the bench. And you have much more of a stretch in your chest, much more tension in the bottom position. I've also put in some dips for my lower chest. I noticed my lower chest is just severely lagging. And dips are a fantastic movement to build up your lower chest, your entire chest overall. They're, I think, by far a better chest builder than bench press. I just like bench pressing too much to focus all of my training on dips, but otherwise I would do it. Incline dumbbell bench as well for the upper chest. Things like pull downs and rows for the back. Regarding the bench presses and the pull-ups, I do have to admit, at some point I put them back into my program. Even the powerlifting style bench presses and the weighted pull-ups, I've been able to do them without any lower back or hip flexor issues, so that's great. I just noticed I care about getting stronger on them too much, so I had to put them back. But I'm still making sure that I don't skip on any of the hypertrophy work. Weighted pull-ups by themselves anyway are a fantastic movement for hypertrophy, so it's really not taking anything away there. It's only the arched powerlifting style bench press that is just dog shit for muscle growth, at least for me and my personal anatomy. And that is just because the range of motion is so shortened that there is not a whole lot of tension on the chest here in the bottom position. And for me personally, the triceps and the front delts carry a lot more of the load. So to rectify that, I put a lot of focus also on other chest movements that I just mentioned before to still be able to build up my chest. Which coincidentally, I think is also one of the reasons why bench press has been traditionally very difficult for me to get stronger at, because I've just tried to specialize in it too soon and not done enough work to actually build up my chest. I have fairly long arms, and that just combines with not the best chest genetics, in my opinion. It's just been hard to grow my chest. That just made for a pretty lagging bench press, and I'm trying to rectify it at the moment. So let's see. Oh yeah, one other change that I want to talk about today. I'll make another video in the future where I really go into depth about all the ways that my training had to change from training for strength towards training for more hypertrophy. But one very big thing was I stopped thinking about my training in terms of accessory work and main lifts. So when you're in this strength training sort of power building mindset, you only care pretty much about getting your numbers up on those big compound movements, and the rest of your training is just kind of this sort of pump and fluff work that you do around it to support the main lift, so to say, but that you don't really care about that much in and of themselves. And that was really my mindset as well. And by changing this, I've been able to just put just as much emphasis on all my isolation work, all my, like, whatever it is, curls, side raises, calf raises, lat pull downs, dumbbell incline bench presses, etc., etc. And by having that mindset shift, you're just able to push so much harder on those lifts and take them much more serious. You know, when they're in the end of your workout, when you have a lift in the end of your workout and you've done a 1.5 hour session, maybe a 2 hour session that dragged out because you're talking to your buddies, those lifts tend to get skipped when you have a power building mindset. But like with this, they don't get skipped, you know, they get hit, and that means that you make much better progress on those muscle groups and those lifts. Every time you skip a lift, it's just progress out of the window. You have to, it's a stop start, you have to rebuild again. And that is actually one of the biggest realizations that I've made with my training. If I manage to train consistently and hit the exercise in my program consistently, I make such incredibly good progress, way better than I thought I could have at this point in my training. And it just shows me that progressive overload is ultimately just by far the most important thing to enable progression and to enable muscle growth and ultimately strength gains as well. You just have to be consistent, and you have to take every single lift in your program seriously, push every single lift to the max. I've set rep goals now and weight goals for each individual lift in my program that I'm doing, because I know the only way I'm going to grow muscle is to increase the weight and the reps that I'm doing on those movements. So ultimately, I'm still trying to get stronger, just my mindset around it has shifted. I'm not caring about my 1 rep max anymore. I'm not worrying about the weight that I'm gonna hit in a couple of weeks. I am just worried about being consistent as hell and pushing each set and each rep as hard as I possibly can, doing that week after week, month after month, and over time increasing the load in a moderate rep range, without changing my technique. Another very important factor is that you keep the technique consistent when you're training for hypertrophy, that you don't start cheating or changing the leverages just to enable you to, you know, get a little bit more weight on the bar. The technique has to stay consistent. And if you do this over a long enough time period, if you increase the loads that you're lifting in a moderate rep range for, let's say 8 to 12 reps, and you increase this, or whatever kind of rep range you're using, you manage to increase this by 50%, there's only one option, and that is that the muscle has grown. That's the only way it's gonna happen. That was the great thing that I realized about training for hypertrophy. This is simple as hell. It's just so simple, and I think a lot of people that care about growing muscle would benefit from this tremendously if they would realize this. So yeah, your training just has to ensure that steady progression, that you can hit it over a long period of time, and then getting jacked is simple as hell. So those are basically my training goals at the moment. There's a little bit of my training history. And so far I've been able to make quite good progress making these changes to my training. I've been able actually to hit a lot of new personal records, especially on those like smaller isolation lifts that I didn't used to take as seriously. Well, surprise, surprise, I'm taking them seriously. I'm pushing them harder. What do you know? I'm making progress again, and I'm growing muscle. And how do I know I'm actually growing muscle? Well, with my body weight, I got really inspired by a recomp video by Natural Hypertrophy. He talked about doing a big recomp over a 3-year time period where he maintained his weight and he just used the extra fat storages on his body as an extra energy reserve for his body, which sort of kind of mimics the climate that your body's in. When you're in a caloric surplus, it has all these extra fat stores, so it's it creates a good climate in your body for muscle growth. You cannot try this if you're at a too low body fat percentage. If you're already super lean, don't try this because you're just gonna end up super frustrated. But I bulked up to about 20% body fat at around roughly 92 to 93 kilograms. That's where I'm maintaining right now, and I'm just gonna stay here at this weight until my body fat has dropped clearly, like undoubtedly below 15%. How do I do that? I have I can measure my body fat percentage with the US Navy method. Fairly accurate way of measuring yourself, super cheap at home. and of course the good old eyeball test. I store the majority of my fat on my abs, a little bit on my lower back. So I know that when the fat there reduces and my abs get more visible over time and my love handles reduce, I know that I'm losing fat. Well, if my weight is maintaining, that means it's being replaced by muscle. Not directly, of course. It's not like your body take the fat cells and magics them into muscle. But indirectly, that's how it works. So yeah, so far I have actually already, I don't know exactly how much progress I've made because I haven't measured myself in a while, but visually I can tell that there is more definition in my abdomen. So starting at 20%, I would estimate somewhere between 16 to 18% right now. But maybe 17 to 18% to be honest. And yeah, that would mean if I hit this goal, that I would have built almost 5 kilos of muscle while losing 5 kilos of fat, roughly, over however long time period it's going to take. And that's super exciting to me. So yeah, thank you for tuning in for all this rambling. I hope it was entertaining. If it was, please drop me a comment down below. Tell me what other things you'd like me to ramble about in future videos. And yeah, give me a follow, give me a like if you like the video. And I hope to see you again in a future video. I hope you're tagging along for this journey. That's it for me for today. Peace. Bye-bye. See you guys later.
Everybody report the robbery!
You fucking bitch!
Don't subscribe.
I'm gonna electrocute every motherfucking last one of you!